welcome to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now, we are breaking the earth as we read through N.K. Jemisin's The Broken Earth trilogy, and we're finishing up the plot of the 5th season. Apologies, both Laura and I will be a little bit zanier or more confused today because we are both sick right now.
Sick in different ways. I
Yeah.
mentioned last episode, I was like, I'm starting to lose my voice. It went, and this is it coming back.
Yes.
I sound immensely better than I did. So
poor Laura was like, we can wait until Monday. And I was like, that's my husband's birthday. So can we not? And she was kind enough to do it. And then I gave myself a medium amount of food poisoning. So,
Hannah
it's just like
is having severe stomach pains.
Yeah,
So
it's fine.
if there's a brief interruption in this recording, I will edit it out and then I won't
And
tell
then
you
you'll
all.
never know about it. Yeah, you'll never know about it. It'll be totally fine. It's fine. We're fine. We're here. We're talking. And with that, Laura,
We're
what are you
working through it.
reading, watching, and or enjoying right now?
So not a whole lot actually at the moment. It was actually kind of a fun thing. I went with my husband to a museum. We saw the Muppets exhibit, the Jim Henson exhibit, and we waited. And this is where I got sick, likely, um, because there were tons of people that were at this exhibit at this museum to see the Jim Henson exhibit. Um, it was like a 2.5 hour wait just to go through a 40-minute exhibit, but we had driven 2 hours to get there, and so we waited outside for like half an hour. And then when we got inside, the museum staff was really not expecting this big of a crowd. So it was kind of a surprise to all of them, but they did a really great job of like accommodating people and moving people around throughout the exhibits inside the other exhibits. So you didn't have to just like stand in a long line and wait. But it was really cool to see the Jim Henson exhibit. Got to see, I actually saw the outfits from the movie Labyrinth. They were
Wow, love to
there.
see it.
Really cool, yeah. And then saw Magra, is it Magra from Dark Crystal. She
Mm-hmm.
was there, and then saw some of the Muppet Babies, saw Bert and Ernie, saw Scooter, Kermit, and a lot of cool like storyboards and things from the early days of Jim Henson's career. And I think if you watched the documentary about Jim Henson, Idea Man, that a lot of the earlier things that they had at the exhibit were very familiar to you because my husband and I had already watched that. And so when we were walking through, like, oh, there was that from Idea Man, and there was this. And remember, we watched that documentary or that short film that he did. So there was a lot of that stuff that we were able to pick up on, but it was still really neat to see some of the actual art and some of the Muppets themselves up close. And then there were people working at the museum that had all these like additional details that they were like, oh, be sure to look for this when you go through. And that was a really fun thing. And we both enjoyed it quite a bit. But because there were so many people, and it is sickest time of the year, this is where I got sick. I'm nearly positive because I had not gone and been around people at all until this. So I was like, yep, this is where it happened. This is where I got sick.
Yep.
So, and we tried to be safe, but I mean, germ's gonna germ.
Yeah.
So yeah. But totally recommend if anybody is in the Peoria, Illinois area to check out the Peoria Riverfront Museum. Really nice, smaller museum, but they have a planetarium and a movie theater there, and the staff was really excellent that day. Highly, highly recommend going there just based on how great the staff was. They did a great job accommodating all these people and trying to make it a fun experience, even though it was a really long wait for a lot of people.
I hope all the people were being kind to the staff because that is like,
Not all of the
oh
people were. There
gosh,
were
yeah.
some Karens.
Mm,
And the thing is, when you're waiting outside, it was cold that day. And it
yeah.
was a situation where people were coming in to use the bathroom. And when you're standing outside, you're just seeing people go in to use the bathroom and you're not keeping track of people coming back out. And here's the thing, if you have small children, you're gonna just go into the bathroom and then kind of meander your way back out. You're not gonna immediately come back out because you want to keep them busy, knowing that you have
Right.
to remain in line for an
So
additional 20
long.
minutes or whatever. So there was some there were some people that were being
Frustrations.
Karens of sorts, I would say. I don't know another way to word it, but it was white women of a certain age who were the ones complaining. And I loudly complained about that woman being a Karen. And then a lot of the other people that we were like around in line, we kind of made it a point to like overly thank the staff at the museum then,
Yeah.
because we were just like, it's literally not their fault. They had no idea that this many people would show up on this day and that it would be this popular. So, and there were some factors at play too, as to why that specific day was that popular, because it was the second to last day before the exhibit closed
Right.
for ever and goes to Europe. So it was like second to last day in the United States, and then the following day, which was going to be the last day, was predicted to be a heavy snowstorm, and it was. So
Yeah.
people traveled from most of the people that were in line that we were talking to, they were all driving from 2.5 hours away to get to this from all sorts of different parts of Illinois, Iowa. And there was even a group of people that had come from Tennessee
Oh,
to see this
wow.
exhibit. And my husband and I were talking, and he was like, "Would you have driven from Tennessee to come see this?" And I was like, "I mean, knowing what it is now, probably not, but it was,
Yeah.
I think, worth it for just the 2 hours to drive and see it. Um, 8.5, maybe not, especially when you have to wait that long in
Right.
line and everything. But if you're a huge Henson fan, maybe it is totally worth it.
That's
And if
right.
you're able to get in quickly and see the other things too, maybe it was worth it to them. But it was a cool experience to go see that. And we had fun and we did some other things too. So it was a fun day, fun afternoon. I was glad that he obliged me because I'm the Muppet head
You
of
love, yeah, you
the
love the
two of us.
Muppets for
Like I love
listeners.
the Muppets so much. Like it was cool too because they had like old movie posters of some of the Muppet movies and like actually I'll send you some pictures, Hannah, to put up on our Patreon
Yeah. Sounds
if
good.
you want to put some of the Muppet exhibit stuff up there. Yeah, it was a fun experience, and I'm a big Muppet head, and I'll send you some of the pictures to put on Patreon to share with people if they're interested. But I was also really excited to see like the movie posters
Oh,
that were some of
yeah.
the originals, and one of my absolute favorite Muppet movies is The Great Muppet Caper. I don't know what it is specifically about that one that I just love it so much. I don't know if it's because it's the ridiculousness of Miss Piggy, and I just really like Miss Piggy a lot. But that movie specifically is a favorite, and I just was thrilled that I was able to see that specific movie
Good.
poster. And I don't even know if that was like, besides being an original poster, I don't know if that was like any kind of significance to Henson. Um, like if he touched that one or whatever. I don't
Right.
remember seeing that, but I like those kind of like vintage items like that and of things that I'm attached to, I guess. But yeah, I just thought that was really cool. It was a great Muppet caper. Oh my gosh, I love that one because I think it is what's his name, Charles. Oh, I can't remember his name. He's from Beethoven. Oh, Charles Grodin. Yeah, he
Oh,
plays
yeah. He
Mickey
plays the
Holiday.
dad, and yeah.
He's the dad in Beethoven, but in this he plays Miss Piggy's uh, boss's brother in The Great
Okay.
Muppet Caper, and he's just really funny in it. And there's also just like perfect examples of like the Muppets Muppeting, where there's a whole scene where Miss Piggy like tells them that she lives at this really fancy place, and then they spend all this time like breaking her into this house, and she's like climbing up the, shimmying her way up the side of the house and everything to try and pull off this ruse that she actually lives there, and they're
Oh,
completely
good.
convinced. But the people that actually live in the house, they don't really foil her plan, and they kind of like go
Let
along
her
with
do
it.
it. Oh,
That
that's
she's
nice.
there, like they mentioned, like, "Oh, looks like a pig's climbing up the side of the house. Weird." And then when they even encounter her, they don't really like call her out, like, "Oh, you don't live here." I just love that movie specifically, but I was glad that my husband was willing to oblige me and go.
Yeah,
And
that's nice.
yeah, it was fun. It was a cool couple thing to do,
My
and
dad
it was fun.
also loves the Muppets so much. He consistently, like when that came out and then got canceled, the TV show, he was like, I just don't understand. Everyone loves the Muppets. And he was like,
I
very,
mean, that show was kind of ahead of its time.
yeah,
They had a lot of like variety for guests and everything, and that was like kind of a really popular thing for people to get on that show, almost like in the vein of SNL.
yeah, exactly. So I understand because my dad was also a very big Muppets head. So
Yeah, and I would say it's maybe a little more even family friendly, so it was maybe catching a wider audience for a lot of
yeah.
people who were trying to kind of get seen or wanted to have an appearance on something to promote something. So, but the other thing that I have been enjoying is this show on Netflix called A Man on the Inside.
Oh
And
yeah. I
I love
tried to
it so
watch that
much.
twice, but it was around family, so I couldn't focus.
You need to watch it. It's so sweet. I
Okay.
I really like it. It's another Michael Schur um production. He was the creator of The Good Place, which we love. He also was
Yes.
Moe's in The Office. He's involved in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's involved in Parks and Rec. All of these creations of the TV shows that we love. Um,
Yes.
but it stars Ted Danson, another Good Place pull, and Stephanie Beatriz is in this too. Brooklyn Nine-Nine fame. She was Rosa, but the show follows a man who is a retiree from a college. He's a professor, an engineering professor, and he ends up kind of getting involved with this private investigator to become a mole
Yes.
and deliver information to her in regards to a an alleged robbery that has
Hmm.
occurred within this retirement home. I find this show so heartwarming
Oh,
and
good.
so fun, and I did not expect it to be as heartwarming as it is. Like I kind of expected it to be it is fairly zany, but I expected it to be more zany. But
Okay.
really a lot of it is just hitting me in the feels.
Oh,
And
good.
I really appreciate this show, especially for casting, like going out and specifically casting older actors. Like
Yeah.
we do not see that many actors or that many shows that have majority cast over 70.
Right.
And this cast is probably all majority over 70. And they're not all the butt of the joke, if you know what I mean. I feel like many times when older actors are cast in something, they're either like the joke or they playing like funny grandma or whatever. They're just
Right.
kind of a annoying side character. That's definitely not the case here. And all of the characters seem to be handled with care and are fun, which I really appreciate. But the show just has a lot of depth to it, which of course it would because it has Good Place vibes and Michael Schur just likes to hit me in the heart like he
Of
does.
course.
But I just think that Ted Danson is doing a great job. He's so likable in his role as Charles, and all of the other people there really like him too at this retirement home. And it's easy to understand why because he's just really likable and he does a great job with this character. And I think the depth that they give to him in regards to his own situation and the reasons as to why he might be interested in taking this job as a mole for this PI, it's just fantastically done. And it's something that, like, I think a lot of people need to consider more when we're talking about purpose and the ways that we care for and can also neglect the elderly people in not just our own lives, but in the
In
greater
general.
community.
Well,
Because I do feel like there are so many people, unfortunately, that are kind of, not only without healthcare and such, but also just without social connection and purpose. And this show really kind of shines a light on that and it does a great job.
well, and I think it's interesting to talk about it this way because I was recently at a party and we had to do like a trivia game. And there was something about like what 50-year-old actor like owns a tortoise. Spoiler alert, it's Leonardo DiCaprio. But someone like
Mm,
started
okay.
guessing people's names. And it was shocking to me how often I had to be like, that's an actor in their 60s. Like, you actually, like, people don't realize that, like, all of these actors are much older. And I do think there's two sides of the coin where we do not treat people in their 70s and 80s with enough, like, grace. But also, we're teaching, like, people who are turning into their 60s that, like, they can never get old. Cause you have, like, Tom Cruise, where I was like, he's in his 60s. And someone was like, what? And I was like, yeah, he's an older actor. And then like someone was like Brad Pitt. And I was like, also an older actor, but they're like these people who are like clutching on to the like branches of
On to their
youth.
youth because they have to stay young and hot.
Yes, and it's so strange how, and mostly men, because women age at age 35.
Yep.
Look at
We're
all,
we're already old, Hannah,
yeah,
you and
we are
I.
already ancient, and like, yeah, Brad Pitt is 61 years old, and he's
Mhm.
probably still getting paired with like 40-year-old women.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
like that's the
Leonardo DiCaprio is still dating
20.
22-year-olds, so
Yep. And Glenn Powell is like getting paired with 20-year-old, like 26-year
yeah.
olds. Like there's so much that we don't talk about where it's like I like the idea of the show because it's 70-year-olds who are actually in their 70s who are
Yes.
like dealing with actually what it means to get older, to not have these privileges of being like famous film star actors who don't have to quote unquote
I mean, Ted
age.
Danson, I just look here. He's 77, so he's pushing
Yeah.
80. And you
Right.
know what? He looks great. He does, but he looks his age. He looks like
Right.
he's in his 70s. And I kind of appreciate that he's even taking these type of roles that he's like acknowledging like, yeah, I'm old. I'll do it.
Yeah. Like I feel like he is someone who's been able to poke fun at himself for like the longest time. Like he was one of the first
Yes.
actors who like admitted to getting hair plugs because he was like, yeah, I was balding and people didn't want to hire me, so I got hair
Sure.
plugs. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. And he had a long career. So,
I also feel like his wife is someone who is also like kind of willing to take on a variety of roles where it's just like, nope, it sounds fun, or yeah, I'll be the grandma in this. I don't care
yeah,
because she's in a really wide range of things too. But
right.
I just feel like Ted Danson in this show handles it with so much care that I'm not sure if it's something where he takes it personally or if he's had a situation similar to this where there's been some kind of memory loss or something in his family, but I really appreciate the care that he put into the role. And I think a lot of the other older actors in the show do a wonderful job to the point where I'm like, it's a shame that these people are not getting other roles and things. Like, unfortunately, ageism exists, and
Yeah.
especially within Hollywood, where these people, like I said, are going to be just like the butt of the joke. They need somebody to come in their underwear or fart or something like that, or somebody to sleep through a
Huh?
scene or
Huh? Like,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, somebody to not be able to hear whatever stereotypical jokes that you would think of in things are likely going to be the reasons people are hired for things if they're over 70. But I think that a lot of the actors, I mean, there were some stereotypical things that happened, but
Of
for
course.
the most part, the roles are handled with a lot of care and the actors do a great job. And makes me like really want somebody to hook me up with people at Netflix or some other TV show production company because I'm like, I have a really great idea for a TV show starring older actors. I need to get this out there. So if anyone has connections, let me know because
Hit
I've
her
got
up.
a wonderful idea, but I'm not going to just say it on here.
Well, Laura, you know what I'm going to recommend that you read next to keep on this status is the Thursday Murder Club, which is about old
I'm
people.
sure that it's very much within the vein of this.
Yeah, I loved that book. I thought it was so adorable, and just so
Yeah,
fun.
I remember
So,
you talking about it. Yeah, I think you would really like Man on the Inside if you kept watching it. And I know specifically for people who have dealt with any kind of like memory loss situation within our mental, I wouldn't say just mental health, memory loss
mhm.
within a family member, this will especially hit home. But and death of family members that are elderly, I think a lot of the situations really hit close to home
Yeah,
are handled with a lot of care. So
that's good.
would recommend.
Good.
Hannah, what have you been reading and watching? Take a
So,
break from my voice.
As we get closer to my 2025 reading list, I listened to the audiobook of Nevo's When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain, which is the next in her series of novellas, where we listen to Chi, who is a traveling, like a monk type person who goes to these different places and learns stories. And in this, they travel up a mountain and they encounter sentient tigers who decide that they may want to kill them. And Chi has to save themselves and another person by telling a story of the tigers. And she is warned that if they get too much done or wrong, they will be eaten. And it's just like a very short, encapsulated novella, really. And it's so well written. I love the reading of it. The narrator, Cindy Kay, is excellent. This is just a perfect blend of storytelling, and it's a perfect little bite size part of the Singing Hills saga. Nevo is such a wonderful like writer. All of
Is
her
this the
writing is
second
very
book? I'm sorry.
yes, this is the second book.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, you're fine.
I was coughing.
No, it's always very dense writing, but it's always very good, and I enjoy listening to it. So I can't wait to continue on. There are currently 5 books out for this, I believe, and I'm definitely gonna read all of them. So, I like doing it in audio because it is a quick read. It's about a two
Yeah,
hour,
that's probably.
20-minute audiobook.
Oh,
Um,
okay. So yeah, really short.
and people should check on their Hoopla app if they have one through their library, because a lot of times it is at least available on mine. So, check that out because I do like Nevo's work quite a bit. And then for another audiobook, my first audiobook of 2025 that I finished, I listened to a Laura recommendation and I listened to Tom Lake by Ann Patchett as
Oh
read by
yes,
Meryl Streep. Um,
I really
I
liked Meryl Streep's reading of that.
I really liked it. I did laugh. There is a moment where Meryl Streep reads out HVAC system, and I was like, Meryl does not
HVAC.
know what she does not know what an HVAC is. Meryl Streep is too famous, and she can't be bothered to know what an HVAC system
She doesn't
is.
need to know what that is. She's
No,
too busy, Mamma Mia, being all
she
over.
she is singing that Mamma Mia. Here I go again. So
Even though she was like redoing that entire place during Mamma Mia, she was not. She
she was not
don't kid
because
yourselves. She was just wearing overalls and dancing. She
she was
was
gonna
not
walk in
actually
and
doing
be,
any
where
repairs
is
there.
the HVAC system? And I was charmed by that because it's Meryl Streep. So like, you're never gonna be mad at her for not knowing that,
I
but it was very funny.
really like her. I can't help it.
No, she is very charming, and I
Yes,
really liked her
everything she
reading of it.
does.
It was very well done. She kind of like leads you into it. I like it is a strange book because like I kept having to remind myself that this woman isn't that old. Like, how
Yeah.
we're getting into the
Well,
age where
and
we're
I've
used
had
to.
this complaint before, Hannah, with certain narrators for things where I'm like, they sound too old.
Yeah,
And
she sounds too old.
especially, I notice it especially with romances where
Hmm.
the protagonist is supposed to be like 30s or late 20s, and I'm like, the narrator is almost 50, and I can
Yes.
hear it in their voice.
And that was like my one complaint with it, but it's also, I think, a part of like the problem is me in some parts because
But
um
also, it's hard for me to remember too, like some people do sound older. Like
yes.
they just do.
Yes. And this is a book where like the majority of it is taking place in the like late 70s, early 80s.
Yep, yep.
And I kept being like, well, this is the 50s and 60s. And then I was like, no, it is not. It is specifically not that time period, Hannah. You need
Right,
to
right.
remember what time and place this woman is teasing her hair before she goes on stage at night.
Yes.
But other than that, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a very
Yeah,
nice. This is
I thought it was really good.
this is my third Anne Patchett novel, and it's probably one of my favorites of hers. So I thought she did a
Nice.
really good job. I liked it. The oldest sister got on my nerves a little bit, but that's just
Sure.
like, but I think it's interesting to read a book about someone who's like, I'm fine with the choices I made in life, and I think that that's lovely. And like, I think it,
It was
it
very much just a reflection. Like there, I felt like even though this is like a book that's a reflection of what happened in someone's life, there a lot of times people like look back on things. I think I've talked about this before when I talked about this book that you look back on your own life and you're hard on yourself. But
yeah.
that book specifically felt like a just like kind of letting it all wash over you and just getting it out and not really judging yourself for the things that
Yeah.
happen, which was really refreshing to
I
have
know.
that kind of perspective.
And I like that, like, I don't know, I'm someone who I don't believe like the first love is the greatest love, but I do think like the first love is an important love and it makes you like think
Sure,
back and it
sure.
makes you reflect. And even if you never want to be with that like former partner again, it's fun to like have those memories. And so
Sure.
I liked her view of it because Laura, the narrator, is very much similar to me in that vein, where she's like, "Well, of course I loved him, but like, your life changes and the story changes." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so smart." And she has like such a way of talking, and I liked the sisters relationships. I thought those were all
Yeah,
realistic, where there's moments in it where like the mom gets her feelings hurt, and like two of the sisters like try to talk to the other sister about it and like warn her, and then the sister gets upset, and I was like, this is such a smart look at family dynamics,
yeah.
because that is what would have happened in my family as a family of all sisters, where like
Sure.
we all kind of chit chat and we all figure out what's going on, and sometimes our feelings get hurt. And so I was very impressed with that. And then I'm gonna save my other book
I'm
that I've
glad you
read
read
recently.
that one.
Yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for the recommendation, because I'm not sure I
Yeah.
would have picked it up via audiobook if you hadn't
I have been
recommended.
listening to a lot of Mamma Mia recently.
it. so,
So,
so you manifested. No, and then
yes, it's
the other
almost
book,
like I was listening to Meryl Streep and you were like, you know what? I should also listen to Meryl Streep in a
yeah.
less fun way, but also fun.
Yeah, but also a fun way. And then I'll save the other book for next week because Laura and well, I'm reading a very thick book that Laura's trying to read right now, Legacy of the
I'm
Bright Wash, and
fine.
it's
I'm struggling to read anything, people.
no, that's okay. But it will take me another week and a half to finish that. So I'll leave my other audiobook for next week to discuss. And then for
Oh, are you doing
watching,
that one via audio?
no, I'm doing
Oh,
that via physical slash
okay.
Kindle. But no, I'm just saving an audiobook I read recently to be like, oh, let me make sure I have that one on deck. So next week
Gotcha,
it's like,
gotcha.
I didn't read anything other than 100 pages in a 600-page book that I need to finish soon. Um, but for watching, I haven't been watching too much. Taskmaster, I think I'm on series 14, one of the best ones. They had some of the best ones recently. They're so funny. Um, I love them. There's an episode where they all have to bring in a gift for the other guest, and all of them but one bring in really, really nice gifts for each other. And
Oh
Craig
no.
Davies is like, you did not understand the prompt, because one of them is like, I happen to know that Cuz loves this type of dog, so I got him a painting of the dog. And then he was like, I happen to know that so and so really liked my coat. And she was like, I complimented you on that coat last week. And he was like, I remembered. And like they were all just so nice to each other and like really liked each other. Except for certain moments and certain tasks, because the stand-up character, because he's hilarious, was this man named Cuz, who used to be a teacher, and you're like, I would have loved having you as a teacher. What did you teach? You are such a strange man. And he was supposed to be helping from the lab, and he would go, there's been a development in the lab. There's one American on that season, and you could see her face where she's like, I'm going to murder him after the, or no, he would say, there's been a revelation in the lab. And she was like sitting there like, please stop talking. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And so that was a really good season. And then I had promised that we were going to talk about the Lisa Frank documentary, but Laura said that we should cover it for the TV Tuesday this year. So January 2025 month is going to be Lisa Frank documentary.
And it's coming out a week later just
Yeah,
because
just because
life.
it's January. But I will.
January is long. There's plenty of
There's
Tuesdays.
so many Tuesdays. I will give you this one little tidbit before we record the episode. What a 4-hour documentary where I learned very little. I don't think we
What
learned
what do you
anything.
mean? I learned a lot.
I learned very little about Lisa Frank. I learned a lot about Hunter Green.
I don't think we even learned enough about that.
Oh my gosh, that man was
More thoughts to come.
wild. More thoughts to come. But you are welcome, Laura, for getting you to watch a random
Here's
documentary.
the thing. I was like, oh, I got like 20 episodes of Doctor Who to watch if we're gonna do that. And then
Right.
you mentioned that Lisa Frank documentary, and I'm like, I know I'm going to watch that because now I'm interested, and I'm going to watch it before I watch all that Doctor Who because
Yeah.
I know I'm interested now. Like that kind of drama, I cannot let it go. I know I'm gonna watch it. And so I was like, would you be okay if we did TV Tuesday on it this month? And you're like, okay.
Yeah, why not?
So it's happening.
It was a wild ride. Yeah, what a documentary. We'll talk about that more to come. But that's really it, Laura. Shall we dive into the rest of the plot of the fifth
Let's finish it.
season?
So I don't know why I was thinking like the really shocking thing happened within the next chapter. It took a little time. So it was like almost the end of the book when the really
Yeah,
shocking thing happened. So I don't know
I
why I
wondered if
was,
that's what you thought was the really shocking
yes, I don't
thing.
know why I was like, I think it might just be the cyan chapters. I was getting really nervous, like, oh no, the really shocking thing's going to happen. But it did indeed take until the end of the book. So I did not give Jemison enough credit to on this reread to draw the shocking moment out and to let me be shocked all the way to the end. I was
Yes.
being a little too anticipatory here. But anyways, we left off at chapter 20, which we flash forward 2 years basically. And Cyan has had the baby and she's in this moment where she just like she feels useless. She's bored in the fishing community. She's like, there's really
Yes.
not that much to do here. And Enen's like a little he doesn't really get why she's frustrated because he's like, Alabaster seems content to just like look out at the water. And Cyan's like, I need to do
More
something.
than this provincial life.
I need to be used. And like I could help you guys on your ships. Like when you go out on like your pirate missions, I could use fog or something to disrupt things to help you like go on these raids. I could disrupt the shore. And Enen's like, I don't know. We don't really want you on the ship because like you're not gonna take orders from me because we're lovers. That's not gonna work out well. And you know how it is, like sleeping with the boss type thing. Like that's not gonna be the best. And she's like, well, you know that it would be a different situation on the boat and everything. And he's like, well, don't you want to stay and be with Koru, Rundum,
Core is their son, so
who is Alabaster and Cyan's son?
yes.
And so then this kind of like makes Cyan kind of reflect on like becoming a mother because she's like, you know what? I never really wanted to be a mother, but I really do love this child. Like I was reluctant about becoming a mother, but and I don't know that I'm great at it. I have a different way of doing this, but I really do love this child and I think that he's really perfect. And so
I
in
really
an
liked this section
it was
because
great.
as someone who's not sure how they would feel if they ever became a mother, I was like, this is actually like, and it
So
was interesting.
realistic.
Yeah, and it was interesting because Inan was very much like, well, all the other mothers love being a mother and da 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 da. Da. Like, why don't you feel the same way? And I was like, because people have different experiences, and when you're forced into motherhood, it might feel different for you, and like you might enjoy
I
it,
also
but
think
like,
too that this Jemison does a really great job of bringing into Cyan the not lacking care for her
no,
son,
she
but
loves her son, but
wanting
she's
purpose for herself
right,
beyond being a mother, which
right.
I think is so important. And we really forget about that type of thing when we talk to women, especially mothers,
Yeah.
but women in general, like kind of just narrowing down the purpose of women to a singular thing, which
Hmm.
is child care and bearing.
Yeah.
And
And sometimes you have a
failing to
dog who
recognize
only comes to you to get sick and not to your
right,
husband. Just like
exactly.
children.
Exactly. But no, we fail to recognize as a society that women have greater purposes beyond
Hmm.
just bearing children and caring for them. But anyways, getting back to the Cyan, she really feels useless because she thinks that Alabaster has been handling like all of these threats around them and everything, and she's like talking to him about it, like complaining like how useless she feels and everything. And she's like, you're even handling all, you're like quelling all the threats and everything around here. And she's like, Inan and I can't even feel them because Inan also is like a wild, a feral origin. And it, Alabaster's like, yeah,
That's not me.
it's not me quelling this, it's Koru. And Alabaster's like, you know what? If you want to go on this, go ahead and go. And I'll be here to take care of our kid. And
Well, and
I'll
he's very
explain to him why he only has one parent then.
he definitely goes like overboard where you know that Alabaster's life has been very painful. And like I will say that
Yeah.
she handles it well because like obviously they have a different relationship. Like Cyan is not in love with Alabaster, but like she and Alabaster have like a type of throuple where like they are all together,
Sure.
and like Alabaster does see Inan as one of Koryu's parents, and so it is like
Yeah.
his two people who he has this community with now want to leave him, and he has this reaction of like, well, I guess I take care of our child while you guys die, and she's just like, well, that's not fair. Like,
Sure. And they have this moment of like reconciliation later that night in bed where Alabaster tells Cyan, like, you should just love Koru and quit looking for more. Like, quit looking for better. Cyan's like, but he deserves better. He deserves more than this. And
mhm.
he he does deserve more, but we shouldn't be looking for more for him. It's unsafe, basically, is what he's getting at. So later, the three of them have sex, and it's this really loving but complicated relationship, like you were talking about, where even Cyan struggles to describe it because she's like, it's not really a love triangle, but it's also a thing where, like, her and Alabaster, even though they are not necessarily like attracted to one another, they do still have sex sometimes, and they do have this deep emotional connection with each
Mhm.
other. I wouldn't say it's even necessarily just a trauma related thing, even though there
No.
is some aspect of it that is a shared trauma thing. I would say that it's just a deeper emotional connection between the two of them that really draws them to one another within that relationship. But
Well, it's just interesting because it's just like, oh, a book where heterosexuality and just like, oh, one person with one person is the only way that it can happen. It's like, yeah, there, if you're going to build a different world, you're going to have different relationships. And I thought that that was really well
sure.
done.
So then the next morning, Cyan and Inan leave on the ship, and Alabaster and Koru are on the shore waving at them. And Cyan on the boat, she struggles with seasickness and stuff at first, but she's really amazed by the stars and the stories that Inan tells her. And she's just amazed by the other worlds that exist out there and how, like, the stars represent suns and all these other places that are out there. And she's quickly learning about life on the ship, and she's just glad to be able to do something, that
Hmm.
there's something that she can do. And so one day they encounter an attack ship, and Cyan basically amazes everyone because she just like raises up the reef and ruins this attacking ship. But this then signals more of the attackers to come their way. And unfortunately, Inan has to ask Cyan to sink the ships for the safety of Miav because they're going to follow them back. They have to get rid of them, unfortunately. They
Yeah.
have to just
Or they're just going
do
to
that
like
for their own
take the
safety.
tail of someone who has that much power on the ship, and it
Take
points too
it
many
back to the
fingers.
mainland and it'll
Yeah.
make things worse. So they have to do that for their own safety and the safety of the people there. And so then Cyan asks, she's like, I want to see Alia. Like, I want to see it. I want to see what I did to it. And then at first is like, no, I don't think we should. I think that's a bad idea. But he does indeed take her there. And on the way there, Cyan is like reflecting on how, according to the Loras, Father Earth did not originally hate life, but
Hmm.
things changed because people started to do terrible things to Father Earth. Sound familiar? Yes, it does.
Yep.
And uh, the worst of all was that they destroyed Father Earth's child, and that Lorists don't necessarily understand what this means, but this is definitely when seasons began, was
Hmm.
when something happened to Father Earth's child. So when they get to Alia, they see that it's absolutely destroyed, and there's
Yeah.
volcanoes there, and there's lava erupting and everything, and it's really, really, really unstable. And Cyan decides that she can't just let it be like that, and she's a little shocked too. She's like, why would the Fulcrum let it just be this ticking time bomb that could become this massive explosion at any moment? Like, all the people here that were here are dead and everything, and she's like, I gotta fix this volcano. We've got to fix this. And so she does, and
Yeah.
it exhausts her. And when she wakes up, she realizes she didn't account for everything because a tsunami is going to occur. But of course, it's being quelled by Alabaster, who is just literally so superb in his orogeny that he was able to feel that all the way from back on Miav.
Yep.
And so all of the crew, they're very surprised and shocked by Cyan's power. And Inan is like, I'm so surprised that you're as powerful as Alabaster. And she's like, I'm not as powerful as him. And he's like, oh no, you totally are. You are definitely as powerful as him. And he's like, I really wish that I could have had the opportunity to go to the fulcrum and learn like you guys did. And Cyan's like, no, you really are better off not having gone there. You don't want to go there. And so then as they're like going away from Alia after they've fixed this situation, Cyan thinks she sees somebody walking downhill. She's unsure if she's seeing this or not, but she thinks that she sees somebody walking down a hill in a burgundy uniform, which would signal a
Foreshadowing.
guardian.
Yep.
And so she has this moment where she's like, did they leave this area to leave this area alone just to purposely draw us back?
Yep.
So then we switch POVs to our POV, and we are with Tonki, and we realize we know her. We know who Tonki
And
is,
we
and
know
she is.
Tonki too.
Yeah, yes, we realize that we
Yeah.
we know who Tonki is. She is being off, and we didn't think that, or she didn't think that we remembered, and so she had people follow us for like 30 years, and she herself has been following us for like the past few years because, of course, her family has a ton of money, and she has access to get all these people to follow us and everything. And so we're kind of like calling her out, like, what the heck? I thought you were a GMist. I thought you were leadership. What are you? And she's like, well, I am a GMist and I've been studying what we found in the fulcrum all those years ago. Like I've dedicated my life to this. And this socket is where the obelisks come from, and it's where everything went wrong. It's so important. We have to be studying this. And so Tonki kind of like gets into a little bit more about her own family situation and how
Mhm.
basically she was kind of just removed from her own family. They
Quietly
removed
disowned is how she
quietly
put it.
disowned. Yes, because it was a situation where she was, I guess, in an arranged marriage of sorts. And then her
At birth,
at
which means
birth,
that because
and
she is who she is, and she
yes, she was
transitioned, it was no longer,
because she was assigned male at birth.
yeah.
She was in a arranged marriage situation, but she's a woman, so that threw everything for a loop and ruined family connections and everything. So her family basically were just like, see ya, you're out of the
Hmm.
picture now. But she still seemingly has connections and a lot of money that she can
Yes.
access because she was able to get education and she's still able to like get all these people to kind of help her out and use connections that she has to be able to do things like her research and following Esun.
Hmm.
So Tonki has been interested in the obelisks and she developed an interest in us because she thought we might be able to use the obelisks. And Tonki and the people that she's working with have been tracking obelisks and they've noticed that they can move toward origins who can use them. And the obelisks seem to bond to certain origins. And so Tonki tells us that two of the origins were headed toward Torimo, which kind of confuses us because we're like, oh, well,
Hmm.
there's three origins there because there was us and Nasun and Uche. And so we're a little confused by this, but we kind of move on. We ask Tonki to leave. We're like, we need time to think. And so then we confront Hoa about being a stone eater. And he shows us, he's like, look at my bundle here that I have. We're like, what is it, rocks? You have a
Yeah.
bundle of rocks that you've been carrying? We're like, is this your food? And he's like, no, it's me. And we're like, okay, well, don't fully understand that, but
Hmm.
whatever. And so then he tells us that he wanted to travel with us because he likes us. And he says he's not going to hurt us, but it's really not safe here, meaning Castrima. Like it's
Yeah.
not safe here. And he's like, the other Stone Eaters, they're not like me. I just don't like them. They're not like me. And we're like, you know what? We trust him. So we decide to go to sleep. And when we wake up, we go out to check out the calm a little bit, to check out Castrima in case we need to destroy it, basically,
Yep.
because we're worried they're not going to let us leave.
Yeah.
And we're
They're
trying to
being
kind of
very
get
polite about the fact that we cannot leave.
we're trying to get an idea of what the place is like in case we need to, tear it all down.
Hmm.
So uh just walking around, we're really like amazed by the creation of this place because it's a bit of a maze, but it's very intricate and very like thought out and a really interesting place. And so we end up going to these pools and we're washing up and everything, and we see who is it? Lerna,
Who
who
was
was
he's
the
from the
doctor
Yep.
from Terimo. And so after we like clean up and get dressed, we go over and we're talking to Lerna, and he's really surprised. He's like, "Oh, well, I suppose Yika summoned you here. Well, that's interesting." He kind of tells us what happened to him, that he was basically forced out of Torimo for being a friend to an origin, which
Where
is
he
what
felt the
happened.
tides turning, that if he didn't get out soon enough, someone would have
Yes.
a problem with him soon based on what was going on in the city.
And he's kind of had a tumultuous situation moving to get to Castrema, where he hooked up with bandits at one point and tried to help the daughter of one of them escape, and then bad things happened, and then he got lost and everything, and kind of just like happened upon Castrema and then realized what it was and was able to be like, oh, hey, I'm a doctor. You might be able to use me.
Mhm.
And he actually has a pretty useful use within comms. So people do, in fact, need doctors. And we're in Lerna's place, and we see that he's even kind of like prepared his own place with like cots of sorts in case he's going to need to care for people.
Right.
And so then we end up sharing our story with him, and he's like, I know you're looking for Nasun, but Nasun is not here. But I know you're going to find her. I know you're going to do that. And so then we're just like
We
crying.
also realize that he has the hots for us, and we're like, well, I don't know what to do with
he
that, but
he's always loved us. He's always had a thing for us, and it's a little uncomfortable.
yeah.
But we really just cry thinking of it all and like all of it that brought us here and how we really once did kind of have it all. And we think about how we had a man who loved us, we had a place where we were free, people who wanted us and cared for us. And it when I was reading this, I was kind of questioning like which version of us we were thinking of,
Yeah,
because now
me
that
too.
we know that we're in this multiple timelines situation or single timeline, if you think about it, it makes me think what version of Essun's life we are thinking of, or Simon's life that we're thinking of was the place where we had it all.
Yeah.
So then we take Lorna back to our place, and we're kind of noticing like some of the chambers of Castrima and how really wickedly strange they are. And when we get back to our chamber, Tonki and Lorna talk for a little bit, and they're kind of chatting, and then Hoa comes in and is like, there's somebody you should meet. And they're from Humanus, and it's, of course, Alabaster, and
Yep.
he is dying.
Yep.
So switch POV back over to Cyan. Oh my,
Yeah.
this one's a lot. So it's 5 days after Cyan shut down the volcano and sunk those ships of people, and Mayav is celebrating. Alabaster is hanging out with Cyan, and they're talking about parenting Koru, and Alabaster offers Cyan rings for shutting down the volcano. And so now she's technically a six ringer, even though
It's
not technically.
unofficial. And she's also grieving everything she just did. Like she
She's
feels a
never
lot of
killed people intentionally
responsibility.
like that.
Yeah.
Sure. And so they're talking about how they're going to have to train Koru, despite Cyan being like, let's just let it go. Like, we don't have to deal with it. We don't want to train him like the Fulcrum. And Alabaster's like, no, we literally have a responsibility to train Koru. We
Like
need
he's
to
quelling things.
train him. Like,
Like yeah, he's
we have to do this. And so then the two of them end up talking about the story of Misalim, and Alabaster is like, well, you know why Misalim did this. There was a purpose, despite what our guardians say
hmm
when they tell the story, and it's that Misalim wanted revenge. And Alabaster reveals that the reason is conveniently left out of the story. And this is, I know that you've said this previously, but it's, I think, a fairly common saying now that history is told by the winners.
Yes.
And so uh, and this is the case here where Alabaster went and actually studied and learned the actual history of the story when he was younger because he was more
hmm
advanced in his classes than his peers. And basically, the origins built the fulcrum under the threat of genocide, and that
Yep.
Misalam was essentially just fighting for revenge over what occurred to his family. And so then Cyan reveals to Alabaster that she is pretty sure she saw a guardian in Alia, and Alabaster's like, I will tear the world apart if they try to hurt us again. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's 3 weeks later when the world ends. And we're resting with Alabaster, who's asking us about if we're ever thinking about having more kids, if we'd like to have some. And Cyan's like, yeah, I don't know if I want to have more. Like I wasn't even sure I wanted to have this one. And
Mm-hmm.
Alabaster's like, but you could have one with Inan. Maybe it would be a still and Inan would be a good dad. And Cyan's like, well, Inan already has a couple other kids and Inan is a good dad to Koru and everything. So I don't know about that. But Alabaster's like, I don't need to prove myself the way that you do.
Yeah.
And that it's it's something that is okay for me to just kind of be here and exist here and be free. And so they end up napping, but Inan wakes Cyan up and alerts her that something's coming from the mainland, and they're all just very worried about Koru. So they look out, and there are 4 boats of guardians coming, and it's basically chaos. They're trying to get somebody to take Koru. Koru does not want to be away from his parents. And what they feared is true that Alia was a trap, and Cyan runs onto one of Inan's ships, but Alabaster is already like working hard and like raising up this wall of stone using the obelisk, the amethyst obelisk to pull this up
Mm-hmm.
and kind of make a wall to stop the guardians from coming. And Cyan is using orogeny on water, which is actually like a really difficult thing to do. But
Yeah.
some of the feral origins have been able to teach, including Inan, have been able to teach Cyan how to manipulate water in this way. And so Cyan ends up going to Alabaster and leaving Inan uh, and Koru together. And Alabaster, she finds out, has been dropping rocks on the
Yeah.
ships that were the Guardians because he cannot directly attack a Guardian.
Right. They can't directly attack guardians.
So this is kind of a way around it where he's been able to just drop rocks on the ships and
Mm-hmm.
take them out that way. So they both end up using their orogeny to try and stall or stop the ships. But then Alabaster ends up getting hurt, we think, by a cannon blast. And he makes a promise. He makes Cyan promise, like, do not let the Guardians take Koru because once they find out that it's his kid, he essentially does not want Koru to end up in a node station, is
Right.
what it means. So we're in this whole situation, and Cyan is shocked because Alabaster's limbs have been turned to stone, and
Yeah.
he's being dragged into the ground by a stone eater, and then all of a sudden he's gone. And then Cyan and the Maevites are being chased on the water because they are on the Klasu and fishing boats are trying to escape, and the Guardians end up catching up with them and boarding their ship, and there's just death everywhere. And
Yeah.
Inan ends up trying to uh, push Cyan and Koru into this cabin on the ship and trying to tell them to just stay out of sight, stay
Yeah.
safe, and is tragically, brutally killed by one of the
Yes.
Guardians.
In
And
like the
then
way that like Alabaster described once to Cyan, and she like there's a moment where she's like, you didn't tell me how bad it was. Like
she
this is
she
awful.
didn't realize how horrifying it actually was.
Yeah.
And then another horrifying thing happens where Shafa is here.
Mm-hmm.
And I could scream because
Yeah.
Shafa is the
Awful.
worst.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So terrible.
And he's back with all his manipulative
I'm
ickiness
the only
of,
one who loves you.
oh,
Like,
so
yeah.
excited. I'm
You brought
so
me a
glad that you guys
child.
have
Yeah.
a kid. It's Alabasters. How cool. Like we've been wanting to talk to him, but I guess since he's not here, the kid will do. Like, oh,
Well, there's a moment where she's like, well, he was taken by a stone eater, and he was like, "Ah, we should have killed him when we
well,
had the chance." Like, and it was
that's too
just,
bad
it's,
because that's going
yeah.
to be way worse. Which
Yeah.
we at this point know so little about stone eaters that as I was reading this the first time, I was like, oh no, what
Yeah.
does that mean? Because we don't know how to react to anything Shafa says. Because even though Shafa is this like extremely manipulative, awful person, it's hard to say what of the
Yeah,
things he tells us are actually truthful.
right.
And it could be a horrific thing. We don't know. So then Cyan reaches for the obelisk to gain its power and
Hmm.
tear the world apart. And she ends up smothering Koru in this
Yes,
moment to save
to
him
save him.
from slavery, essentially.
Hmm.
And
To keep him free in a sense, in the only way that she is able to with her power.
it's very, I don't know if you read Beloved. Did you read Beloved by Toni Morrison?
I have not read Beloved, but I
It's
did.
actually such a fantastic book. I really love that book. I read it in high school the first time, and it's one that really sticks with you. And this is very much a moment of uh, that book to me, where it
Yeah,
has very much like haunting Toni Morrison vibes, where we're getting this woman who knows that the only way that she can prevent her child from entering into slavery is to unfortunately kill them.
yes,
And so then we're left with the image of two people floating in the water, and one of them is a child who is floating face down. And Cyan does survive all of this and wanders lost for 2 years before
hmm
finding Tarimo. And we find out that it she was followed by Hoa,
hmm
who has been keeping track of her all this time.
yeah.
So
Because when
then
she connected with the obelisk, she like brought all these stone eaters to her, and Ho was like, "But I came
yes, drew
first." So, yeah.
drew them in. So then in chapter 23, we go to meet Alabaster, and Antimony is there with him standing guard. Alabaster is becoming stone, basically. And we
Hmm.
try to explain that, look, like a lot's happened. We do have two more kids. We had a husband, and Alabaster's like, look, it's been a while. I understand why you killed Koru. I get it, but I'll never forgive you for it. Like,
Which is
the
devastating for Esun. Like it's so
everything surrounding
devastating.
Alabaster just like makes my heart drop because he has had such a traumatic life, and even in that moment to understand why Cyan did kill their child, to never be able to forgive her because
Yeah.
he loved this child so dearly. It's devastating. And then he says he's not going to kill us, but he wants to know if we can use it, meaning the obelisk. And
Yes.
we realize that Alabaster, in fact, started this season up
All of
north
this.
with all
I
of the
forgot about the
obelisks
prologue.
and the node maintainers. And he says, don't worry, they're now at peace.
Hmm.
And that he smiles at us and he says that he wants to make things worse. And then
Hmm.
he asks if we have ever heard of the moon.
What
And
a
that is
way
the
to
end.
end. I mean, spectacular book. I know that you gasped when you read the section with Koru.
Yes.
I felt it coming the entire time. Like um
I
the
guess I
second
should have expected it, but I don't. And honestly, like the having read Beloved, I should have expected something along those lines, but I don't know if I was expecting that specifically.
the second Alabaster said, "Please don't let them take him no matter what." I was like, "Oh, fuck." Like
Yeah,
there was just a moment where I was like, "Well, Koru's not making out of it, and I bet it's Cyan. Like it has to be with this amount of like
sure.
pressure on her." I was just like, "Oh gosh." And so I kept reading like,
It's
"Please be
just
wrong.
so
Please be wrong.
very
Please be wrong."
eerily similar to Beloved that I think I was not expecting it to have that happen.
I
So,
also had MASH flashbacks. If people don't know the ending of MASH, there's an episode where
sure.
one of the main characters is like telling the story over and over again. It's like one of the final episodes, and he's been like a very lighthearted character the entire time, and he keeps talking about a woman and how her chicken keeps talking or like keeps squawking when they're trying to hide. And then as the story goes on, you realize he's like re-imprinted the
It's
chicken, and it was a child, and the
a
child was
child
smothered
crying.
to death. And it was like,
Yeah,
it's just like it is a very specific type of storytelling for war to show like how dark it can be and how it cannot be your fault, but it can still be something you did, you know? And I think that it's such a hard moment to watch Cyan like make that decision after she's like talked about her complex feelings and everything and in between. It was very beautifully done. So
I feel like the Cyan and Alabaster storyline of this gets ramped up so quickly that me
yeah.
reading this on a reread, it made me nervous. Like when I was in the last section, I had said, I was like, I'm nervous. I think this is the part where there's like a moment where I gasped.
Yeah.
And but I think it was just me anticipating that because it ramps up so quickly in their specific sections that it goes from like a really slow pace where we're starting to like enter in and Cyan's learning these things from Alabaster and he's a mentor to her and everything to then they're in this new place and they've had this baby and all this to her wanting more from this provincial life and
Yeah.
then here we are and everything's being tied together and we know how all of the timelines are tied together and it's
It's
rough.
interesting. Yeah. It's very rough. It's a rough book, but it was beautifully written and
Oh,
yeah, I
fantastically written. I think that it really is just probably one of the best books I've ever read.
yeah.
And I think Jemison has this really engaging type of writing that just draws people in. I think people that do not enjoy fantasy would really enjoy this book.
Oh yeah.
I also I also think that it's just a testament to her writing and her skill that this book has made it on to all sorts of very popular lists of like best books of the century, best
Hmm.
books that you must read before you die, that type of
I
thing.
mean,
And I I think that like when we're talking about colonialism and the way that history is portrayed and the history books being written by the winners, this is definitely reminiscent of this book and how the stories that we need to be listening to are those of the people who have been unfortunately the targets of
yeah.
slavery and the ones who have historically not been listened to and how their experiences have been shaping the world to benefit those towards the top, those like the guardians who have been kind of forming history to fit their own
Right. Well,
needs.
and keeping some of those who are in the most power subjugated. Like it just shows so much. There's so many layers to this, and I can't wait
Sure,
to do a deeper dive next week into the themes and characters of
absolutely.
the broken or of the fifth season. But before that, everyone, if you could go and follow us on all the social media platforms that exist currently, we try
Blue
to
Sky
be
and
almost
Instagram.
everywhere. Blue Sky and Instagram at OWWR Pod. You can also find us on our website at ourpod.com. We have some exciting things coming up in the near future, hopefully. So please keep an eye out on that. You can also find us over on Discord. Join our Discord. Come talk to us. We love discussing things. Laura often talks more about manga over there, and I usually talk about books that I'm loving when I can. So please make sure you're following us over there as well. And if you would be so willing, please rate, review, and subscribe. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing is a great way to get other people involved, or just tell a friend about this.
Yeah,
This is
sharing
a
really helps.
this is
If
a
we've had
great
a few
time.
listeners share episodes this week that and that's great to just get
Yeah.
the word out. We really appreciate it.
Or like if you see a picture on Instagram and someone like is saying they want to read the fifth season, like I've said, like, oh my God, we're covering that. We love it. And people are like, oh, thank you for letting me know. That's amazing. Like that's the whole purpose of this podcast is people can come to us on seasons of books that they've been meaning to read and just listen along with us. So we
I think
love
this is a
hearing
really great
that.
one to dive in.
Yeah, what a great one to dive into. So please do all of those things. And we're going to get our Patreon up started again real soon with some great content over there. As a hint, we may be going into the Dresden verse again in some way,
Uh,
shape, or form.
uh.
Oh,
Can
but
I
we
tell you that I looked into this is slight spoilers for the TV show and I was like shocked. I'm like, wait, that doesn't look like Jim Butcher. I expected him to be starring in the TV show.
you expected it to be Harry. Jim Butcher is Harry Dresden.
Jim Butcher as Harry Dresden. That's
I remember he's a
picture.
40-year-old man, and I was like, well, that doesn't help our whole like, well, he's
Not at the time,
25.
was he?
So yeah, we will be covering the Harry Dresden TV show over on the Patreon. So we'll be doing 2 episodes per Patreon episode. So hopefully you all will love hearing that as we go back into Harry Dresden, because now that we've started,
I'm
we
going to be
cannot
disappointed
stop.
that Jim Butcher is not an actor.
Every episode, Laura's gonna be like, it would have been better if Jim Butcher were the star. So I don't know what to
I
tell
don't even
you.
know if the man can act, but he looks like he should be Harry Dresden.
That's fair. Well, make sure you're doing all of those things, and we will see you next week as we
And
discuss the
thanks for
themes
listening
and
today.
characters. Bye.
Bye.